All right, we want to greet everyone in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ. Today, if the Lord say the same, we're going to talk about some things. So this will be I guess we would call a God's blueprint for family. Something that's designed to help our families, and particularly today, our marriages. And is intended to help also our young people who are maybe not married, so that before they get into a relationship or whatever the case may be, they can maybe guard their hearts against the things that the devil may have planned for them. So today is May 16th, 2021. How many years it's been now? 29 years ago. Was it 29 years ago now? Yeah, 29 years ago, my wife and I graduated from high school. I had to think like, okay, carry the 5 plus 1. Sometimes that happens, you can pop it off when you get, when you're young, when it's just 5 years. But when you get to 29 years, you have to think twice about it. I was sharing with my brother a few weeks ago. My wife and I, when we, sometimes we wake up, we try to check on each other, make sure we still breathing. You see? And when you get our age, you're like, okay, you still alive. I'm going back to sleep now. And we do that. Wake up. Okay, you still alive. But today we want to talk about some things. If you have your Bibles, let's go to the 6th chapter, the book of 2 Samuel. My prayers is that this will help us. These are some things my wife and I ourselves have gone over, and I'm going to talk about a few things. The 6th chapter of 2 Samuel, we're going to start reading at verse 12. Now, this was the children of Israel. God commanded Moses and Aaron to build the Ark of the Covenant. And, of course, there were certain items in that Ark of the Covenant. And basically what it represented was the presence of God. And as long as the Ark of the Covenant was with them, they could win battles, they could win wars. God was with them. But then whenever they backslid and they started doing things contrary to the Lord, and not only that, other nations had gotten wind that this ark, in their minds, and I'm just telling you from their standpoint, other nations had gotten wind that this ark was their good luck charm. And that's what they thought, that it was their good luck charm. This is how they're winning their battles. They started to think of it as a god, if that makes any sense. Kind of like what nations would think an idol is, a little head or something like that. And so the Philistines had gotten a hold of this ark. And of course, it was a curse to them. And so it was laid on David's heart to bring that Ark of the Covenant back. And of course, you know the story. They tried to bring it back and on an ox cart being pulled by an ox, and I guess it must have hit a bump because it began to the Ark of the Covenant began to fall over, and there was a man named Uzzah who tried to catch it to keep it from hitting the ground, and when he did, the Bible says that the anger of the Lord was kindled against him, and God smote him and killed him. Now, isn't that something? Now, we have to make that, it shows us that God means what he says in his word. He don't care how good your intentions are. This man's intentions were good. All he was doing was trying to catch the ark of the covenant to keep it from falling over and breaking, possibly, or just damaging it. But the Bible makes it clear that the anger of the Lord was kindled against him. Let's read that in verse 7 real quick, so you'll see it for yourself. In fact, let's back up. Let's back up to verse 6. It says, "And when they came to Nachon's threshing floor, Uzzah put forth his hand to the ark of God, and took hold of it, for the oxen shook it. And the anger of the Lord was kindled against Uzzah." Everybody see that? "And God smote him there for his" what? Error. So you see how you can have good intentions and still be in error? Now that's the reason why God's word is the bottom line, not how you feel. God's word is the bottom line. God honors his word, not how you feel and how you didn't mean anything by it. A man, we just read right here, God got angry at a man and killed that man. Not based on how he felt, not based on what he meant by nothing, but based on him breaking the word of God. And what was that word? That only the priest could touch that ark. Does everybody understand that? That was a sacred thing. So, and God smote him there for his error, and there he died by the ark of God. And David was displeased because the Lord had made a breach upon Uzzah, and he called the name of the place Perez Uzzah to this day. And David was afraid of the Lord that day. Everybody see that? And that's what folks need to be, afraid of the Lord. You know, you need to be afraid. You need to stick to what God's word say. That's, you know, it's going to be a whole lot of women preachers in hell because they think God called them to preach. Good intentions. Does everybody understand that? Good intentions. Well, the man ain't preaching. Does everybody understand that? That don't mean he called you. Does everybody understand that? You know how silly that is? Well, the men ain't standing up. You know, it's got folks today that don't want to have babies. Does that mean we let 4 and 5 year olds start making babies? The grown-ups ain't having babies. Yeah, it ain't going to stand in judgment day either, you see. Verse 9, "And David was afraid of the Lord that day and said, How shall the ark of the Lord come to me? So David would not remove the ark of the Lord unto him into the city of David, but David carried it aside into the house of Obed-Edom the Gittite. And the ark of the Lord continued in the house of Obed-Edom the Gittite 3 months. And the Lord blessed Obed-Edom and all his household. And it was told King David, saying, The Lord hath blessed the house of Obed-Edom and all that pertaineth unto him because of the ark of God. So David went and brought up the ark of the God from the house of Obed-Edom into the city of David with gladness." Everybody see that? Now you see how God, he's always used jealousy. And David was content with leaving that ark there. But then but God used jealousy. Let me bless him so you get back on track. See, in other words, David was willing to say, you know what? Really, David got his feelings hurt. Your man trying to help and you striking him dead. Well, bump it. I'm going to just leave it there. And that's what people do with the word of God. As soon as they find themselves in it and God speaks something against and what they're doing in life, they want to put it down. But you know what? God will use somebody that stay in that word and bless them, and then you'll pick it back up. Everybody understand that? Verse 13, "And it was so that when they that bare the ark of the Lord had gone 6 paces, he sacrificed oxen and fatlings, and David danced before the Lord with all his might. And David was girded with a linen ephod. So David and all the house of Israel brought up the ark of the Lord with shouting and with the sound of the trumpet. And as the ark of the Lord came into the city of David, Michal, Saul's daughter, looked through a window and saw King David leaping and dancing before the Lord, and she despised him in her heart." Everybody see that? Why? Why did she despise him? Despised him. Not just despised him, but in her heart. Isn't that something? I'm going to tell you something. I have been married to a woman that hated God's blessing on my life. Hated it. Was with her. She was benefiting from it, but hated it. Wanted to see me fail. Especially when I made it known that the Lord had called me into full-time ministry. She pretended to have no problem with it. Well, you got to do what God tells you to do. But God will test our faithfulness. And so there was a time when things got really tight. And the day came, we got an electric bill in the mail, and the day came where they were supposed to shut the electricity off. And I got up, like as was my custom back then. I got up about 5 o'clock in the morning, and I was praying to the Lord. And I prayed, and I said, well, Lord, don't let them shut this electricity off. I said, if you do that, if you allow them, now I don't mind it. Whatever I got to go through, that's fine. But if you allow that to happen, people gonna call me a liar. They gonna say you didn't tell me to go into full-time ministry. I say, so don't ever let that be. Don't ever. I want you to prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies, like what your word says. And so before I could get done praying good, I had gotten a call from somebody, and they said, John, what you doing? I said, nothing. And they said, you mind meeting me somewhere? And I thought, no, I don't mind. I said, well, you want me to? I thought maybe he had somebody he wanted me to pray for. So I said, well, you want me to meet you at the hospital or something like that? And he said, well, the Lord told me to pay your electric bill. He said, so where you want to meet me? I said, the electric company. So I met him there and got the bill paid. When I got home, I'm going to tell you how the devil worked. I got home, and in the mail was a bank statement. My ex-wife, she had her own banking account. And I opened it up, and she had more than enough money to pay the bill. But she was willing to allow the electricity to get cut off to prove a point. So now, could you imagine being married to something like that? Where they'll run you. My children were her children. We were going to all be sitting in the dark. But will run the household down because she despised you in her heart. Does everybody understand that? The children can go to hell in a handbasket. But because I hate you, I'm coming against it all. I don't even want your children to be successful, even though they're mine too. I'm going to run them down as well. Now, that's some evil stuff, isn't it? You would think, that the same way I thought. You're married to somebody, they on the team with you. They want to see you succeed, because if you succeed, they succeed. And if you just crazy in your brain and just despise them, you're just not going to be with them anymore. You'll just go on. When you get to that point, you ought to have enough sense to just go on. Except the devil don't. Does everybody understand that? I'm going to ride you down the hill and then catch a ride back out of there. I can't tell you what is, you've heard that term, sleeping with the enemy. That's a true statement as sure as I'm sitting here. That's a bad feeling. And you just, and the whole time I was just thinking, well, she'll snap out of it. The devil just got her brain on lock. At some point, she'll snap out, except they don't. That devil has to be cast out. But until then, it's a long, terrible ride. being with somebody that despises it. I don't understand the concept. I guess because I'm just a common sense type of person. If I don't like you, I'm not going to be with you. It's just that simple. I ain't got no games to play. I don't like you no more. We're not boyfriend, girlfriend no more. Don't quit writing me and passing me notes in the hallway. It's really that simple. But when the devil's involved, it's not just I don't like you. I hate your very soul. I hate your soul. Does everybody understand that? That's a bad feeling. So we see here what, you see the picture here of what was taking place. All of Israel celebrating. Their king is dancing in front of them with all of his might before the Lord. And one woman who should have been rejoicing and been his main hype person. Look at what let's read that again now. And as the ark of the Lord, verse 16, came into the city of David, Michal, Saul's daughter, looked through what? She didn't even go to the celebration. I don't want no part of this, your happiness. Does everybody understand? That's that woman that whatever brings joy to her husband, it ain't gonna bring joy to her. Does everybody understand that? Now let me just give you one clue of how to have a happy and good marriage. I believe when two people love one another. For instance, my wife, she might not have liked fishing the way I liked it. But if she know that I like fishing, every time I go fishing, she'll go with me just to sit there. Because the idea is to be with me. But and the same thing with her. There are times I've gone shopping with her when she likes shopping or whatever. The idea was to spend time with her. Now, I'm not gonna walk up at down each aisle. I'll find me a bench somewhere and just meet you on the other side. You see that? My wife will tell you I'm good for that, especially in the mall. Yeah, you going in here? I'm gonna sit right out here. I'll be out here when you get done. But so the idea is to spend. If I love my wife, then what's important to her is important to me. And it might not be my first choice of something to do. But because I love her, then I'm going to want to take part in that. But when you have two people that live in their own worlds, and one's not willing to go over to the other side and things like that, then you'll have two people that's dead set on divorce. You start living two separate lives. Does everybody understand that? And so that's not God's will. And so here, this is what's going on between Michal and Saul. Her husband, she knows about the breach upon Uzzah. She knows that was something that bothered her husband. And here it was, God was restoring her husband's confidence in what he was intending to do in the first place, which was to bring the Ark of the Covenant back among God's people. The most joyous thing that Israel could experience at that time was having the presence of God among them. And there she was in a house. Everybody else outside rejoicing, thinking, look at King David, go, King, go, Not her. Not her. I'm in the house. I don't want to, so what? Does everybody understand that? So what? Who cares? What's that's got to do with me? Isn't that something? And there was her husband now. Isn't that something? Could you imagine? And I want you brothers, y'all to think about that. If there's ever been a time when you felt like your wife have despised you in her heart. I know me. It's something about it to me. I can't sleep in peace when I know that's the case. There have been times in my marriage, even right now, where I knew my wife had something in her heart towards me. She can go 2 and 3 weeks without telling me about it, but I'll know. I don't care. You can put on. You ain't. It. I ain't got. I don't have to see. You don't have to mistreat me in any kind of way. I'm just gonna know that there's something there that ain't right. And my wife will tell you in those times when I want to take a nap, if she's still up, I'm waking up every 10 minutes looking at her. Every 10 minutes, because I can't have peace. I don't know what you're about to do. I just know I can't sleep right. And maybe 3 weeks down the road, yeah, I'm asking you, I need to ask you for forgiveness because it seemed like the last time that happened was when we first moved on this side of Tennessee. She had asked me if I would do something. What do you remember what it was you asked me if I would do? You know what I'm talking about? I can't remember what it was she had asked me to do, but I ain't the one. I do it when I feel like doing it, when I feel the unction. But I know you're not gonna boss me, you see. But we'd just come back from Nashville, and I had gotten a HD antenna to hook up to the television, and so I told her, you call Josh on the phone. Now it was just about dark. I said, you call Josh on the phone and get him over here to meet us outside so we can put this antenna up. And so Josh and we were out there in the dark, right before dark, out there putting that antenna up. And it was on after that. Because in her mind, so you got time to put up an antenna in the dark, but you didn't want to do what I asked you to do. But she carried that for 3 weeks. Does everybody understand that? And so, again, and I didn't do whatever it was, I still didn't do in those 3 weeks that she was mad about it. I can't remember. Do you remember what that was? But I thought, now this is amazing. Now you didn't skip church and play hooky for 3 weeks. You was sitting in church praying and singing with everybody else, and mad about an antenna. Isn't that something? So I guess everybody understand what I'm saying now. That it is possible, And so in those 3 weeks, that seems to be the norm. What the norm was back then. 3 weeks. If she had something in her heart, it was going to be 3 weeks before she came and, will you forgive me? For what? And I had something in my heart towards you. I asked you to do this, and you didn't do it. But then you put up an antenna, and I got upset because I felt like. So what did that? What did that show me? That you want to control me. You want control over me, and maybe it was the Lord that was keeping me from doing whatever it was you asked me to do, just so that to keep you in your place. Does everybody understand? And so here was Michael, something that should have been celebrated. There she was despising her husband. Despised him. What does that word despise mean? Let's look that up, just so we know. Contempt. To feel contempt or a deep repugnance for. Does everybody see that? So that's a bad feeling for a man to feel from his own wife. So let's keep reading there. Verse 17, and they brought in the ark of the Lord and set it in his place in the midst of the tabernacle that David had pitched for it. And David offered burnt offerings and peace offerings before the Lord. And as soon as David had made an end of offering burnt offerings and peace offerings, he blessed the people in the name of the Lord of hosts. And he dealt among all the people, even among the whole multitude of Israel, as well to the women as men, to everyone a cake of bread and a good piece of flesh and a flagon of wine. So all the people departed, everyone to his house. Isn't that something? Then David returned to bless his household. Everybody see that? He returned to bless his household. And what did he find there? And Michal, the daughter of Saul, came out to meet David and said, what? Thank you, brother David, for coming to bless us too. You gave them all a flagon of wine and some meat and cake. I know you got something real big planned for us. This is like a honeymoon for us all over again. Is that what she said? And Michal, the daughter of Saul, came out to meet David and said, how glorious was the king of Israel today, who uncovered himself today in the eyes of the handmaids of his servants, as one of the vain fellows shamelessly uncovered himself. Isn't that something? And David said unto Michal, it was before the Lord, which chose me before thy father. Isn't that something? Did y'all catch that? I'm better than your daddy. And get over it. Isn't that something? And before all his house, to appoint me ruler over the people of the Lord, over Israel. Therefore will I play before the Lord, and I will yet be more vile than dust. Isn't that something? And will be base in mine own sight, and of the maidservants which thou hast spoken of them shall I be had in honor. Did everybody see that? Does everybody understand what he's saying there? Let's read that again. I will yet be more vile than dust. Everybody understand that? What he's saying there? If you think me dancing naked in front of people was something, I'm going to get dirtier than that. And he shows you what he's talking about if you pay attention. Look what that says there. And will be based in mine own sight and of the maidservants. Who are maidservants, man? Does everybody see that? Look at what he says. Which thou hast spoken of them shall I be had in honor. I'm about to go sleep with them. Does everybody understand that now? Does everybody understand what he's saying there? They appreciate me. They gonna get some more David. They ain't just gonna get stripper David. Does everybody understand that? Let's read verse 23. Therefore, Michal, the daughter of Saul, had no child until the day of her death. I think another part of that says, another scripture says, he sent her away. She no longer lived with him. He sent her away. And that's the reason why she was childless. He sent her away to live on her own. And that was still his wife, so no other man, she couldn't go out and date anybody. But he made sure that she was childless from that point on. Like, I'm not going to sleep. I'm going to sleep with all these maidservants you just spoke of. But not with you anymore. You going to go childless. Isn't that something? So we read there that she despised David in her heart. Now, would you say that woman was hurt? What made her do that? Well, let's go see if she was hurt. Let's go to the 18th chapter of the book of 1 Samuel, real briefly. Is everybody there? The 18th chapter of 1 Samuel? Let's start reading in verse 17. Yeah, go ahead and read it.
And Saul said to David, Behold, my elder daughter, Merab, Merab, her will I give thee to wife. Only be thou valiant for me, and fight the Lord's battles. For Saul said, Let not mine hand be upon him, but let the hand of the Philistines be upon him. And David said unto Saul, Who am I? And what is my life or my father's family in Israel, that I should be son-in-law to the king? But it came to pass at the time when Merab, Saul's daughter, should have been given to David, that she was given unto Adriel, the Mahalathite, to wife. And Michal, Saul's daughter, loved David, and they told Saul, and the thing pleased him.
Everybody see that? Michal loved David. Does everybody understand that? Let's read verse 28 now.
And Saul saw and knew that the Lord was with David, and that Michal, Saul's daughter, loved him.
Everybody see that? So he saw how they interacted with one another, and he saw that his daughter, she really do love him. So how did she get from that to despising David in her heart? What made her love turn into hatred towards him, to where she couldn't celebrate with him, and then called herself correcting him, which was not, that wasn't common back then. You don't even read about Jezebel correcting Ahab. As full of the devil as she was, you don't read about that. But here comes Michal calling herself correcting David. So how did it get from this love to this hatred? Well, you have to understand what goes on between this and what we just read here. That when King Saul saw that God was with David, he chased David out of the kingdom. And one of the things King Saul did against David was he took Michal, which was David's wife, and gave Michal to another man. And we don't read about her love disappearing for David. So then the question is, who was Michal really mad at? Her daddy. Her issue was with her daddy. Does everybody understand that? I want you to think about something. She didn't choose her second husband. Her daddy did that. There was nothing she could do but marry the man. When Saul decided, you're no longer going to be with David, you're going to be with this man, she had to go along with that. She couldn't say, well, but I love David. He wouldn't have cared about that. So Saul is dead after what we just read in 2 Samuel. Saul is deceased, her daddy. But she's not quite over this issue. And everything that happened as a result of that. I want you all to think about something. David told Michal. Now let's go back and read that. What is that, in the 6th chapter of Samuel, 2 Samuel? Let's go back and read that. Read verse 23.
Therefore Michal, the daughter of Saul, had no child unto the day of her death.
Wait a minute. Y'all see what that says? Had no child until the date of her death. Everybody see that? Mm-hmm. But you know what that's talking about? She had no children with King David. She had children with the man she had married. Does everybody understand that? But she had no children with King David. You know what happened to the children that she had with this other man? they were killed. If you remember, there was a famine. You can read that in the 21st chapter of 2 Samuel. There was a famine in the land. And David knew something was wrong. And he prayed and asked the Lord, why was there such a famine? And the Lord said, because of Saul's bloody house. Because of what Saul did to the Gibeonites, where he tried to utterly destroy them. And so God said, for their sake, there's a famine in the land. And so then David went and inquired of the Gibeonites, asking them, what can we do to make this thing right? And they say, you can't do anything for us but this. Give us 7 of men of the household of Saul. And if I'm not mistaken, 5 of those children were Michael's sons. Isn't that something? Do you think if she had just remained faithful to her husband, to King David, that he would have spared her 5 boys? Maybe he would have accepted them as his own? Does everybody understand that? So we're talking about how hurt gets piled on. David didn't do anything against Michal for her to despise him. Does everybody understand that? Mm-hmm. So who was it that caused the hurt in her life? Her daddy. But here's the issue with hurt. If people don't let go of hurt, when people who caused the hurt die, the hurt don't die with them. Does everybody understand that? Somebody could have hurt you 20 years ago. They could be dead and gone. But if you never let go of the hurt, then the hurt is still there. It don't matter if they're dead or not. And here's the other issue concerning hurt. When somebody is holding on to hurt, hurt has to be paid for. Somebody's going to pay. Does everybody understand that? Mm-hmm. And so there was Michal. Her dad had been dead now for quite some time. So who's the next best thing to get these hands? David. I'm going to stay in the house while you out celebrating. Do y'all see the significance of that? Don't you know it made David look bad? For this woman to stay, all of Israel, all other handmaids, all of Israel out celebrating but her. She did that on purpose. Everybody understand that? And you know, women today would do that to hurt their husband's ministries. Does everybody understand? I'm going to act a fool. I'm going to show out. I'm going to hurt your position in the church. Does everybody understand that? Mm-hmm. So, the name of this, I guess what we'll call this, since we have to give it a name, is just that. Hurt has a name. Does everybody understand that? Hurt has a name. In that case, with Michal, the hurt's name was Saul, except Saul was dead. But I don't recognize. So Saul is dead, so now we got to find somebody else to put this on. Does everybody understand that? Let me ask you sisters this, and I want to see by a show of hands. How many of you sisters believe that you ran a man off? Some kind of way in life you ran one off. I don't care how long. Y'all might have dated for 5 months, might have been 5 days. But somewhere you ran them off, or somebody that you were interested in. Even if you didn't date them. You did something to run them off. How many of you did that? So most of you in here. We'll cast that lion spirit out of the rest of you. What do you think ran that man off? What was your behavior? I want you to think about that. What was your behavior to run him off? It's all the same. It's all the exact same thing. He didn't want to pay for what somebody else did to you. That's what it all boiled down to. Does everybody understand that? And a man would tell you, you know you're hurt. A hurt woman don't hardly want to hear that. Because in their mind, part of their psyche is arranged in such a way to where, don't tell me that I'm hurt over what somebody did. I'm over that. Pride won't let them admit that they're still hurting. And that somebody years ago still got their tentacles in them. Somebody they could say in their hearts, I don't care if I ever see him again. I ain't got to see him. I'm over him. You might be over him. You might not want to be with him. But y'all still connected. That hurt he caused you is still there. Does everybody understand that? And what it is so you in your mind you think, well, you know what, I'm gonna prove I'm not hurt. I'm gonna get into another relationship. But except it don't work. Because nobody's getting a clean slate with you. You try to be nice and smile the first few days or the first few months. But after a while, what's really there shows up. They start seeing you are mean, hateful somebody. Does everybody understand that? And listen, I'm not talking about insecurities so that your mind don't go down that route. I'm not talking about you wanting to be snuggled up to them all the time and you running them away. Men don't halfway mind all of that. It's them ugly ways. Because that same woman that want to snuggle up and be close, they'll cuss you out. They'll let you have it. Does everybody understand that? So what you have to do as a believer, you have to give that hurt a name. Who hurt you? Who really hurt you? I was talking to a brother not too long ago right here in this room. And it said he had asked his wife, what did I ever do to you? What did I do to you? Because he was trying to figure out in his mind, what do I need to ask for forgiveness about? What did I ever do to you? And the wife said, nothing. You didn't do anything to me. Well, why you treat me this way? I tell you why. Because I'm no longer with the person that hurt me. And since I'm with you, you the one that's getting it. Y'all do know that's what it all boiled down to. I'm no longer in your life to make, I'm no longer in this other person's life to make their life miserable. But I'm going to make somebody miserable. Does everybody understand that? And of course, that don't just go for women, it goes for men as well. But I'm telling you, men, for a man understands, for me to be able to move on in life and just live life, I got to let go of stuff. I can't hold on to stuff. I got to let go. So I forgive you for what you did. I forgive you for all of that. I got to continue to move forward. Does everybody understand that? Men know that this is vital to their existence. We have to move on. But women have the ability to hold on, to carry hurt, to hold on. And listen, how many of you remember the what my wife was speaking on here some time ago about double vision? Women have that ability to live in that arena. If you remember what that's about, double vision. I have the ability to separate their lives. This was a bad part, this is a good part. Except for when it go bad and then I move on from that and then make another good part. Does everybody understand that? And then some kind of way I can forget. Or make myself think I done forgot what all the bad part was. I don't remember any of that. My wife and I, we've combed over her past thoroughly, because I needed to know who I was paying for. Give me a name or something. And, so I'd ask her certain questions, and sometimes she'd say, oh, I don't remember. I don't remember that. I don't want to lie. I don't remember. Just certain things I would ask. And then I asked her, so what kind of car they drove? Oh, they drove a Cutlass. That was 26 years ago. If you remember that, you remember the rest of it. I can't tell you not one ex-girlfriend of mine what they drove. I don't remember those details. But you remember. So let's start all over, Coleman, from the beginning. We're going to ask the Holy Ghost to bring it to your remembrance. Everybody understand that? You remember, in other words, you remember what you want to remember. So when we first got married, there was a whole lot of contention. Most of you have heard us talk about that. A whole lot of contention. A whole lot of there have been times, my wife and I, we've talked. Now, so let me ask you all this. And so she started working at Vanderbilt, and we would talk on the phone every day on her lunch break. And then one day, it seemed like I was trying to call her to get in touch with her about something, and I was calling, and she didn't. And then I finally got her on the phone. And I got on her like, why weren't you answering your phone? And she said something smart alecky. And I told her, you gonna answer that phone when I call there. And just had to let her know Vanderbilt ain't your husband. You see? And you know what she told me? If you call here like that again, I'm gonna get a restraining order against you. So then one day now this is maybe a couple of years later after that, we were on the phone and it was her birthday. My thinking was, our normal behavior was we talk on her lunch break. And so but this was her birthday and I'm thinking, well, since I'm not coming up there, spend time with you, we'll just be on the phone. But she said, well, I'm about to go to lunch or something. She's about to go somewhere. And I said, okay, that's fine. We could be on the phone. She said, no, we're about to get off the phone. And that just puzzled me. And then, and to this day, she swears she was at lunch with a female. But, so how does that sound to y'all? Does it sound like a female was sitting on the other side of that table? But that's what I'm supposed to believe. See? So there have been several times like that, and so, another time we talked about, I was like, why? We don't want to talk on your lunch break anymore like what we used to. And she said, well, I ain't got to, this is my lunch break. I ain't got to talk to you. So what does that sound like? I'm listening. How would you brothers take that? How would you brothers take it? Yeah. So you couple that with the contention, what does that equal to y'all? An affair, doesn't it? Now this is what I'm not saying my wife had an affair, so that y'all don't think that. But here's what I want to show you, sisters. When you're hurt, you will act like that you hate your husband. When you're dealing with hurt, the things that you do look like an affair to him, like you have a lover somewhere else. My wife and I, we were talking about this. We've talked about this time and time again. And I asked her one day, I said, why were you acting like that? Because to me, she said, yeah, I could see how it would look like an affair to you. I said, so what was making you behave in such a manner? She said, pride. in my mind, I want to be independent. I don't want to appear like like we're too close or whatever. In my mind, I'm just, you're not going to tell me what to do, is basically what it boiled down to. Does everybody understand that? So now, if we hadn't been married, and say, for instance, we had just been in a relationship, I'd have been gone. And there were times when all of this was going on, I had thought about, you going to come home one day and I'm going to just be gone. Or, no, your clothes going to be packed up. The Bible says that Michael loved David. The Bible says that Saul saw that and observed that Michael loved David. But later on, the Bible says that Michael despised David. You can love your husband, sisters, and still despise him. Does everybody understand that? During the time when you're despising your husband, does he think it's love? Does he think love is there? And so then when your husband begin to call you out on your behavior, you're not able to put two and two together because all you're thinking about is, I love you. What are you talking about? But your husband, what he's doing is he's looking at your actions. 1 + 1 = 2. Your actions are showing different. So I'm really trying to help you sisters to see that. You can, in your heart, I imagine if you raised your hand about you had a man that you really wanted to be with and you ran him off, in your heart, you might have really wanted to be with that man. But your actions didn't show it. And so to him, you're not good for business. And I'm trying to help you to get you out of this cycle. If you don't deal with the hurt, you're going to run everybody off. Does everybody understand that? If you don't deal with that hurt, you'll run your current husband off. You'll get remarried. That's what I told my wife sitting right here. I said, if I ever leave, the Lord showed me you'll get remarried. You'll go on living your life, but you won't be close to him. And you'll never be settled. You'll just continue on. You'll keep every relationship you get. It won't work because you're the problem. Does everybody understand that? You're the problem. If you don't, let me put it this way. If you don't give hurt a name, then you're going to hurt everybody you come across. Except some men have enough sense to know they'll be able to see it way off and just back off from you. But if you don't give hurt a name and let it go, you're going to hurt everybody you come across. And in turn, hurt yourself because now you'll be dealing with the spirit of rejection. Does everybody understand that? How many of you brothers ever ran into somebody like that? They were, in my day, we called them poison. I think it was, what was the name of that group? Belle Biv DeVoe sung that song? She's poison. Yeah, she's poison. She ain't, what'd they say? We ain't gonna say it. But you can't trust them. So does everybody understand that? And to me, I sincerely feel bad for sisters who are caught in this cycle where I believe the sisters want to be married. I believe they want to be loved. But then there's some hurt there that they're not dealing with. And until that hurt gets dealt with, they'll remain in the same cycle, running folks off, blaming other people for their own issues. My wife, when we first got married, she swore up and down she loved me. She swore up and down, that she loved me. And because in her mind she loved me, in her mind, she couldn't understand why she was getting rebuked all the time. She couldn't understand what it was I was trying to tell her and show her. Well, when your hurt is misguided and misplaced and misdirected, then you don't see your own actions. You don't see that you're dynamite. All you can see is your emotions and how you feel towards me. I don't doubt that she loved me, but it wasn't being shown. And I've just given you a few examples of how it was playing out. That's not even the tip of the iceberg. So, but in her mind, I love you. Does everybody understand that? Oh, she wanted to go out and pretend. She wanted to go out on dates. She wanted to go to the picnic and park. She wanted to do all these things that happy couples did. She wanted to do everything but get rid of the hurt and stop mistreating me. Does everybody understand that? It's impossible to hurt and hold on to that hurt and not mistreat people. And most of the time, you're going to mistreat the person that's closest to you when you have hurt that you haven't let go of. Does everybody understand that? Now, this is where unforgiveness come in at. When you don't forgive, and you just have to have that in your heart to do to begin with. When you don't forgive people and let go of people, when you feel like... So I want to ask you, sister, something. How many of you sisters believe you've been hurt by a man in your past? How many of you will admit that you've had the ability to hold on to hurt and hold on to, it take you a while to get over stuff? How many of you every person that's hurt you, you've made them pay for it? Made them pay for it. But I can tell you somebody did. Somebody paid for it. Does everybody understand that? I want you to think about it. 1 + 1 = 2. So you raised your hand with, have you been hurt by somebody in your past? You raised your hand with, have you had the ability to hold on to hurt and to hold on to unforgiveness? Then you didn't raise your hand when I asked, did you make them pay for it? Did you bleach all their clothes? So then the question is this, who's paying for it? Somebody's paying for it. Do you know unforgiveness requires that debt be paid? So let me tell you what happens. You come across a man, they hurt you to your soul, hurt you real bad, and then they go on scot-free. They ain't paid for a thing. And yet you have the ability to hold on to something for years. They ain't paid for it. They done moved on, done got married, done went on. You done saw their girlfriend in public with them and all of that. Who pays for that? Who pays for you seeing them in public being happy, but you're not happy? Does everybody understand that? They done moved on and hurt you too. And what really bothers you is the fact that they'll never know just how much they hurt you. No matter how you tried to sit them down and explain, they didn't care. They done moved on. So what does that make you feel like? They done dropped dynamite in your lap and lit the fuse, and you stuck with it. It's still there if you haven't let go of it. The only problem is some sucker gonna come along and sit in your lap with that dynamite. And you'll try to play it out. I'm healed. I was hurt in the past, but I've let go. But how does that play out in your marriage? How does that play out in your relationship? You saying with your mouth, I love you, but your actions say something completely different. Does everybody understand that? Then you got the devil tormenting you on the other end, making you think that at any moment your husband just going to walk away, like everybody else have in the past. How do you have to come to a conclusion? How do you get over that? How do you fix what damage you've already caused? You can't even begin to fix the damage if you don't give hurt a name. Does everybody understand that? But I'm going to tell you something. If there's an ounce of pride in your life, just an ounce of pride don't want to admit that I was hurt by anybody. Pride don't want to admit that I got damaged and that I went into the relationship this way and came out on the other side raggedy. Does everybody understand that? And I'm telling you, for you to give hurt a name, you have to be willing to swallow that pride. You have to be willing to say, and that's something people don't want to do. People don't want to sit down and say, you know what? This really hurt. This really hurt me. They don't want to say that. Now, people will tell you about every relationship they've been in. I was in this when I was that. That was how my wife was when we first got married. We started combing over her relationship. Relationships, and she would say, yeah, this one did this one to me, and this one did that to me. And I was like, and you didn't go to jail? They still walking around? They still got all their limbs? I moved on. Oh, okay. So you know what it made me think? So all these guys did this, and this to you, and you were able to move on, then if you're going to be able to move on from me and I'm not doing anything. Does everybody understand what I mean when I say that? It's to me, I'm going to put it this way, brothers. My wife had this front on her where she shared with me some of the things she had gone through. But the way she shared it, it was like it didn't bother her. Like she was just, that was just another day at the park. And what it did to me, it made me feel like she was hardened. It made me feel like you don't even have a heart. You think you look strong by fronting like you ain't been through. Now, yeah, I done been through the devil, but ain't nothing bothering me. But to a man that love you, it looked like you hardened. You don't have a heart anymore. In my mind, I felt like it ain't gonna matter to you if I stay or leave. You'll get over it just like you got over the rest of it. Except she wasn't over it. There was still hurt there. And that's why we went over these few examples of the stuff she was doing and saying to mistreat me. Everybody understand that? Her way of getting, I guess, what she was doing was pacifying the hurt. One man hurt her, I pacified by getting another man. This one hurt me, I pacified by getting another man. Does everybody understand that? And then by the time she got to me, it was still all this hurt there, except her mind and her heart was fooled into thinking that she was no longer hurt. But of course that wasn't the case because I was paying for it. Does everybody understand that? And I'm telling you, sisters, if you want to break this cycle, and if you don't break it, you'll destroy every relationship you get into. Every now and then you'll find a man that's willing to hang in there as much as he can. But I'm telling you, if you want to break that cycle, you better give her a name. And not only give it a name, don't keep it as a pet, let it go. Does everybody understand that? Now, I'm going to tell you, the longer it has been since you've been hurt, the harder it is to actually identify. Does everybody understand that? You have anything to say? So my wife, when we first got married, I was dealing with what other men had done to her. And in reality, I guess you could say it this way, what she had done to herself. She was voluntarily going into these relationships. Some of these relationships, she understood very well that they were dead ends. And I tell you, you know, there's this old saying, hurt people hurt people. But I'll take it a step further. Hurt people also continue to hurt themselves. I believe every married woman in this room love her husband. But the thing you have to ask yourself is, and really ask your husband is, does he believe it? Don't matter what your intentions are. What does he see? Because that's what the reality is. What's that scripture you read in the book of Proverbs? A fool tries to understand his own heart. Do you remember what chapter was that you were reading there? 29 or 30. All right, let's go to the book of Proverbs. Where? So is everybody following me so far? Trying to talk about a fool tries to understand his own heart. Okay. So 28, let's go to the 28th chapter. What verse?
26.
And we're going to read verse 26.
He that trusteth in his own heart is a fool.
Say it again now.
He that trusteth in his own heart is a fool.
Uh-huh.
But whoso walketh wisely, he shall be delivered.
So we could have two different conversations in here. I can put the sisters in one room and the brothers in another room. I can ask the sisters, do you love your husband? Yeah. How does he know it? Because I cook for him, I clean, I take care of his babies, I keep having babies. I don't complain, I do this, I do that. You can give a whole list of what you think you're doing to love your husband. But in the room, I asked the brothers, brothers, do your wife love you? I don't know, Brother Bolden. She says she do. What make you doubt? Everybody understand that? And he'll give me a longer list of why he doubts. You know why? Read that again.
He that trusteth in his own heart is a fool.
I believe every wife in here, from her heart, love her husband. But this Bible says, don't you trust in that. You can, in your heart, sincerely love your husband and at the same time run him away. You can't go off of what your heart, what your intentions are and what your heart feels. That God will strike you dead for that the same way he struck Uzzah dead. Uzzah's intention was to save the Ark of the Covenant. But you know what he was doing? He was going against the word of God. You can have all the intention in the world, In your heart, I really sincerely love my husband. But you know what love look like to a husband? Submission without explanations. Does everybody understand that? I got these things in place that how I want my house ran, run it that way. Does everybody understand that? Well, I intend it. Intend don't get you nowhere. A fool trusts in his or her heart. Does everybody understand that? Does everybody? I'm trying to show you the difference there. In your heart, you can sincerely love your husband in your heart, but your actions show something different. With your actions, you're saying, I despise you. We just read that? Michael loved Saul. Michael loved David. Saul saw that Michael loved David. A few years later, what happened? She despised him. So what's going to show up? I say, you can love your husband and you can despise him at the same time. And despise your actions. So love and despising your husband there at the same time, what fruit is going to show up? Not the love. Does everybody understand that? Isn't it crazy? You could take a woman who in her heart really love her husband, but her actions show different. But she can't, so she don't understand, well, what's the problem? I love you. You the problem, because every time you cooking, the cabinets is closing hard. Does everybody understand that? And a woman is the craziest thing. A woman can mistreat that husband, do all kind of things, and then when he ready to walk out the door, get on her knees and beg him to stay. Get on her, can't stand the idea of him being with somebody else. But I think I got a right to despise you in my heart. You see how you need to settle that? Sisters, if you see that your actions aren't lining up with your heart, then you got some stuff you need to settle. Does everybody understand what I mean when I say that? If you see that your actions ain't showing what you believe is in your heart towards your husband, then you got some things you need to settle. If you can say with all sincerity, my husband didn't do anything to deserve what I'm giving him, then you need to give that hurt a name. Does everybody understand that?
I just wanted to share something that just came to my mind. We were sitting here talking, thinking about back at Vanderbilt and the idea of, just the way I came into our marriage and how I despised the correction. And, we've talked about this idea of dating being a setup for divorce. And that was one of the things that just came to me when as we're talking. Think about all the dating I did, just over the course of my life. And I think we've talked about this too, how, when you're in a relationship, and especially, and I'm talking about outside of marriage, you can tend to develop whatever rules you want to develop in that. Like, hey, we can see each other this weekend, or we're not going to, or whatever the case is. And what I found, what happened with me was dating these different people, especially when it's not going anywhere, you're not getting married. Then there was no correction there. There was no need to. It was just all fun and games. Even saying you're in a relationship, but when you're not sharing life together with somebody and you don't have to make major decisions and you're not training up children, you're not paying bills and things like that, it's just all fun. And so I practiced this for a long time. And even when I was married before, there was rarely any correction. It might, and then when it came, it was more so in the form of like joking. There was no stern, just, what, you need to stop this, and this is what the word says, and things like that. It was just more in the form of joking, and we're going to make a joke about it. And, I might say, okay, well, yeah, you're right. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done that. And, we go on with life. But there was no true conviction there. And so one of the things, that came to my mind about us talking on my lunch break, how I despised his correction. And so sometimes when we talked on my lunch break, that meant, he might challenge me in something, and I didn't want to hear it. And so then you have, this bad attitude of me responding to him, because whatever I had going on in my mind, but it all boiled down to the idea that I wasn't accustomed to that. And that was one of the things that I despised, in my heart, which was one of the reasons I had a hard time understanding how he could love me. That was my question all the time. If you see so much wrong with me, how could you possibly love me? How could you get past those things? But I see now on the flip side of that, basically I wanted him to just brush it under the rug and pretend it wasn't there, and we just go on, like he said, let's go on all these dates, and let's have picnics, and let's do all this fun stuff. Why? Because that's what I had been trained to do. Forget about living life together. Forget about being an adult. Forget about really dealing with issues. Let's just have fun, And so, that was just one of the examples that came to me, that, and I'm not even sure I ever thought about it before, but it came to me just now. And you don't know, and you don't know just how much of an effect you can have on your marriage, and that's one of the things, I've told my husband, like, I feel really bad about the way that I acted. And it's crazy because it's like he said, I didn't see it. I didn't see myself the way he saw me. And one of the things I learned, I was taking a training class at work before, and it was about communication. And they said, communication is a message sent and a message received. So if you send it and it's not received, then that communication has failed. If you send a message and you say at, but the person hears bat, then that's failed communication, because what you were trying to say did not reach them. They didn't get the same understanding. And that was something that I have learned as I look back over things that, I brought into the marriage. I've learned to apply that, to put myself in my husband's shoes in the sense of understanding what he was going through. He was telling me things, but because, number one, I didn't want to identify with that person, double vision. I don't want to be this wicked person that you're saying I am. I don't want to be, I love you, and that's what I want you to see. And so it's like he said, I can name all these things that I'm doing in my mind to show you that I love you. But again, message sent, message received. If me cooking for you on time every day and rubbing your back and whatever else I thought I was doing was my way of showing love, but on the other end of that, you're still feeling like, do you really love me? Because every time I say something, you're arguing back. Then it's failed communication. And that was something that I failed to realize, at that time. Were you about to say something?
You done?
Yeah.
So do y'all see the catch-22 there? So in her mind, she could think, well, I'm doing this. I'm cooking for you on time. I'm doing this for you. I'm rubbing your back, whatever. And so now you ought to know that I love you. But to me, okay, yeah, I see that. But all the talking back, it trumps all of that. It erases everything that you're doing. It erases that. So none of it counts. Does everybody understand that? So it's like, so you sisters, you think about it. Some of you've had a man cheat on you or whatever. So let's say, for instance, the man buy you flowers, he buy your car, he buy your house. Every week he's got sending candy to you on your job, but he's cheating on you. So what does the flowers mean? What candy is good enough to make up for that? You tell me. Does everybody understand that? But in your mind, you could think you're cheated because I'm doing all this other stuff. But it don't matter if you're not doing the main thing. Does everybody understand that? Listen, I'm really glad that my wife cooked for me. I'm glad that she cleaned for me. But I didn't marry a maid. I can hire a maid. Does everybody understand that? See, that's her love language. Service. That ain't my love language at all. You ain't got to worship me for me to feel loved. Does everybody understand that? That's her love. She loves service. She loves this. That ain't me. Just let me say something and you not say something back. Does everybody understand that? Just let me say something and that be the law from here to eternity. And I ain't got to ever bring it up again. Now you're showing me that you love me. The laundry I could do myself. I was doing laundry and cook. I can do that myself. Everybody understand that? And so what does the Bible says? Obedience is better than sacrifice. The laundry is the sacrifice. The food is the sacrifice. Can you obey? Everybody understand that? Yeah, you see, that's every man's love language. Submission. That's what the Lord calls for. Everybody understand that? So you can't, no matter how good you get at cooking and cleaning and all this other stuff, none of that matters to a man if you're not doing what he requires. Does everybody understand that? And so everybody understand that? Message sent, message received. You can be sending a message all the time about it. I love you. You ought to see that because I'm doing this, this, and this, and this. But what is he receiving on the other end of it? Does everybody understand that? It doesn't, listen, some of us, we brag about how good we can communicate. In our minds, that's a big thing. I can communicate well. Do you know it doesn't matter what you communicate? It matters what the other person is hearing. What matters is what they're receiving. Doesn't matter how good you can speak English. Does everybody understand that? Men and women speak different languages anyway. So if your husband is speaking French and he don't understand a lick of English, you being an English major, that don't mean a thing to him. Does everybody understand? And so my prayer is that we'll really hear that. You go back and you identify who hurt you. And then make a choice to release that hurt. You know hurt has to be released. A lot of times women feel like because they don't want to be a man, be with that particular person anymore, that they're over them. You are not. You might have enough sense to not want to drink the poison anymore. But if it's still in your system, then they still in your system. Does everybody understand that? You think about a woman that's been with a man that have hurt her, and she done moved on and got remarried and everything. You pay attention to how she act when that man come around. You'll see it. Does everybody understand that? Yeah, you'll see it. Any man that's ever been around his wife's ex or whatever the case is, they'll see it. They'll be sitting there trying to be strong and try to. Now you hurt, sister. Go and get on your knees and ask the Lord to remove it. Does everybody understand that? So that's the question. So do you know your spouse might be the only instrument that the Lord will use to show you that you're still hurt? I want you to think about something. So you were in a relationship, you got hurt by a man, and then you got out of the relationship. How did you know while you're not in a relationship that you were still hurt? How did you know? When you were done crying and all of that, how did you know that you were still hurt? 9 times out of 10, you don't know it until you get into another relationship. Watch your behavior. Did that new one get a clean slate? Is he getting everything that the ex got? Does everybody understand that? If you don't release hurt, you're going to make somebody else pay for it. But in your mind, you could think, well, I don't know what he's talking about. I ain't, I'm not hurt anymore. So why is your marriage in trouble? Does everybody understand that? Do you have anything to say?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, and I think I shared this maybe a few months back, but of course it's relevant to this conversation. But I was, my husband and I were talking about my past, and I think I shared like the very first relationship that I was in, and how the guy that I was dating.
Hold on just a second. Let me say this real quick. So, because I want to, just real quick. Go ahead. I'll let you finish.
The guy that I was dating at the time, how he had picked me up, come over to the house and picked me up as if we would just go and hang out, and brought me over to, it was some people that I knew, and I found out after I got there that the girl was his girlfriend. It was his girlfriend, other girlfriend, and her auntie. And of course, he brings me in there, and it's like all this awkward silence, at first, and the auntie is telling him, go ahead and tell her, so then he tells me basically, okay, hey, this is my girlfriend, and you're no longer. So, of course...
now, could you imagine that?
And
then drove her back home.
so I told him to bring me home, and I'm devastated and crying.
But see, now when she first told me that story, she didn't say I was devastated and crying. She was just telling her like, yeah, that happened, but I ain't shoot. The Lord's with me, I'm over it. And I thought, man, what kind of person are you? I'd have flipped that whole house upside down.
And I think that's what I was gonna address, just that whole idea of how I never dealt with that hurt, and it went with me throughout my life, and I got so far away from it that it was like you said, I did my crying and my self-examination, and what did I do wrong? Why didn't he choose me? Why did, just all these things, and I got to a point where, like you said, pride. Pride kicks in, and it's like, okay, I'm okay, and I'm moving on, and that was kind of the guise under which I just continued to move on, but I never really dealt with that, and it followed me, and it's like looking over the course of my life and how all of that played out. It's like I was telling my husband sometimes, like, okay, I would, like, after that relationship, I thought, okay, I'm hurt. I know that I'm hurt, so I don't need to get into a relationship. But what happened and what I found myself doing, I was in this cycle of I'm hurt, and you start off with these heightened emotions, so everything is fresh, it's brand new, it's there, and it's with you. It's consuming your mind and all of that. But then it all starts to die down because maybe your focus is on work or school or whatever the case is. And so it's there, but it's in the background now. So now you think, okay, well, I'm ready for another relationship. And then you get in there, and then something else happens. It's like, oh, wait a minute. Ran that one off. Okay, I'm hurt all over again. And in my mind, it was a brand new hurt. But what I had to come to grips with was that it was still the same hurt that I had never dealt with from the very first time. And so I was just dragging that along, pretending, and each time just trying to put on this facade like I was so strong, and that, okay, and then also using the next relationship as my proof that I'm okay. Maybe it wasn't me in the last one. This will work out. But then it didn't, and so then, keep starting the cycle all over again. And I just wanted to say that it wasn't until I got back to the point that I was able to identify how hurt I really was from that very first time, that I could truly get over it, that I could be healed from it. Because all before then, I was hiding it. I was pretending that it wasn't there. I was covering it up. with relationship after relationship. And even like he said, even got to the point where, the Lord done healed me of all that junk in my past. I'm okay, but I wasn't. I was pretending, and I hid so well that I hid from myself. And it took my husband and I talking for us to get all the way back all those years to that place, for me to see how I was just carrying this hurt year after year after year after year. And just like what the scripture says about he that trusteth in his own heart is a fool. I kept examining myself in the relationship, trying to figure out, okay, well, maybe I did this wrong, so I'll switch this up and do this different. But it's crazy for you to be with one man and it don't work out, and then you take and try to please the next man with what you think you did wrong with the last man. That's why it's important to give that man brand new mercies. If you're going to be in a relationship with him, you have to learn him and learn what he likes. Not try to force him to take what you think somebody else liked or disliked about you. You understand what I'm saying? And that's what I was doing.
So you want to share what you were saying? So you said you felt like in that first relationship, what was one of the things that you reasoned?
Oh, I thought, as I was examining, I kept thinking like, well, maybe I was too nice. Maybe I was too much of a pushover, and that turned him off. Like maybe I was just too agreeable. Maybe, like I just went along with too much, and maybe he just didn't like that. So, maybe I need to kind of toughen up a little bit and be more, stand my ground or something like that,
So how many of you sisters ever had that reasoning? Maybe I was too much of a pushover. So what did that turn you into? What your husband's dealing with now? Does everybody understand that? So, and I want to show you just how deep this runs. My wife and I, we've talked about that situation time and time and time and time again. And then I think it was yesterday, we talked about it when we were still in Louisiana. We talked about it yesterday. And she said some words that I never heard her say when talking about that situation. And it made me understand something else. So I'm going to tell you what the something else is. And I just want to show you just how deep hurt can go. So my wife, since we've been together, I'm a decisive person. I can say that I like Cheddar's ribs better than I like Chili's ribs. I can tell my wife I don't like that hairstyle. I like this other hairstyle. I don't like those shoes. I like these shoes. I know what I like and what I don't like. And I'll tell you exactly what it is. But so you reverse that, I would ask my wife. So, so she told me, she said, well, I like a man with hair on his face. Okay, so I'll grow a little beard in. And then I asked her, so what do you like? Do you prefer like a full beard, or do you want it tapered, or do you like just rather a goatee? She said, well, I don't have any preference. I don't have a preference. I just, as long as you got, I said, well, you ought to know what you like better. And so we've been married 11 years. And from that time to this, she would never just put her finger and say, I like this better than that. It would always be, well, I can eat this and I can eat that. Just sometimes I'm in the mood for this, sometimes in the mood for that. She would never commit to saying, she would never say, I like this better than I like that. And I would say, what's wrong with you? Why can't you just say what you prefer? But she never would. So yesterday we were talking about the same situation where she just brought up. But she used some words she never used before. She said, now listen carefully, she just said it. I wondered, why did he choose her over me? Did y'all hear that? Do you see why now she didn't want to choose Cheddar's over Chili's? Because she was still dealing with the hurt of choosing one over the other. So she was refusing to commit to either. Does everybody understand what I'm saying? Some man chose another woman over her. She was wondering, why did he choose her over me? In her mind, she's no better than me. And so she adapted this mindset of, I'm not going to make a choice. I like this and I like that. Does everybody understand now? So for 11 years since we've been married, and I'm sure before then, she would never say, I like this beard over that beard. This type. I like this food over that food. She would never say what she liked better. If I put two things in front of her, she would not choose. Why? Because she was still dealing with the hurt from when her boyfriend chose and didn't choose her. Does everybody understand that? So to me, I knew, her being that way, something was off, but I never understood what in the world is wrong. You ought to be able to say what you like over something else. But she never would. I mean, if you can imagine how many conversations we've had over, well, do you like this better or that better? Just over the years. But she would never commit. She would never, ever say, I like this over that. It would always be, well, I can eat this tonight, and then tomorrow I can eat Cheddar's tonight, and tomorrow we can eat Chili's. No, you gonna choose, sister, because only one of them got the best ribs, and it ain't Chili's. Does everybody understand that? So, and I'm trying to show you just how deep hurt runs. It'll alter your life. It changes your vocabulary. Well, you wouldn't want to choose either. If somebody chose somebody over you, everything is just a freestyle. Does everybody understand that? We're not making no choice. That ain't love. Does everybody understand? I would say, well, what do you like? I like them both. See? I think, what's wrong with you? Everybody got a favorite something. Why can't you just say what it is? You ain't crazy. So that's how deep it ran. I'm not going to make a choice. You know why? Because I was hurt. Somebody made a choice and I got the short end of the stick. So I'm not going to make a choice. I like them both. Does everybody understand that?
I'm going to say something that I was reminded of. One of the things that was in the back of my mind, I remember this early on in our marriage, was the fact that I would think whenever he would say, well, no, I don't like Chili's ribs, I like Cheddar's, I would think, well, if he can put that one down and take up the other one, then he could leave me and just go be with somebody else. That's what my thoughts were back then. Mm-hmm. And I didn't realize, like how that all ties in with, what we talked about concerning the making a choice. And that's the way I used to think, like, okay, I'm not going along with that, because if he can put that down, then he can put me down just as easily, And that was a thought that I had very frequently, like early on in our marriage. And never knew that came from way back when I was in a relationship at 15 years old.
15. How old are you now?
47.
47. So for what, 32 years? That same, I'm not going to make a choice. Why has it got to be, that's what she would say too. Why you got to choose? Why can't you just, because I know what my taste buds like. You ain't about to dictate what I like. It just ain't going to happen. So it ran deep. You see that? And I'm telling you, it might be time for some of us to have some really serious conversation with our spouse. Just, when I knew from the beginning of our marriage, just something that simple. Something that simple where she refused to say what her favorite was. To this day, I don't know what her favorite is with stuff. Just she would not commit to a favorite. I knew that. Okay, so I ain't crazy. We both grew up in Louisiana, so I know something about some food and some other stuff. So, but she would not commit. But I always held on to that. I always knew it's something off about that, and I'm sure one of these days it's gonna come out. One day you're gonna say something where I'm gonna know what it is, and so now you know what it was. Somebody chose a favorite. and it wasn't her. And it hurt her to her soul where she didn't want to, from that point on, I don't have a favorite food. I don't have favorite shoes. I don't have a favorite color. I don't have a favorite nothing. Because I'm too hurt to commit to one thing. Does everybody understand that? And so that's the reason why you have to give her a name, so that you can be normal. Does everybody understand that? Yeah. When you don't give her the name and let it go, you're going to be all over the place. You see that? You going to say something? So I would encourage you that are sitting here, and those that may be watching this as well, that you sit down and have those talks. Don't allow your unnamed hurt to continue to damage your present day situation. Again, hurt has to be paid for or either let go of. If it's not let go of, somebody's going to pay for it. And you cannot gauge in yourself whether or not you are hurt. Somebody else has to gauge that. Does everybody understand what I mean when I say that? And if the Lord has given you a husband, then he's the one that can let you know whether your love talk lines up with a love walk. Does everybody understand that? Yeah. Let's go look at one more scripture. The 4th chapter of the book of Luke. Let's see what the Lord said about it. 4th chapter of the book of Luke. We're going to start reading verse 16.
And he came to Nazareth, where
Let's back up to verse 14.
And Jesus returned in the power of the Spirit into Galilee, and there went out a fame of him through all the region round about. And he taught in their synagogues, being glorified of all. And he came to Nazareth, where he had been brought up. As his custom was, he went into the synagogue on the Sabbath day, and stood up for to read. And there was delivered unto him the book of the prophet Isaiah. And when he had opened the book, he found the place where it was written, The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because he hath anointed me to preach the gospel to the poor. He hath sent me to heal the brokenhearted.
Does everybody see that? Do you see how the Lord, his only responsibility wasn't just preaching the gospel? Does everybody understand that? He has anointed me to preach the gospel to the poor. Go ahead.
He has sent me to heal the brokenhearted.
Does everybody see that?
Yes, sir.
Let's read verse 14 again.
And Jesus returned in the power of the Spirit.
He returned with the power of God inside of him. Does everybody see that? Do you know, read verse 18 again.
The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because he hath anointed me to preach the gospel to the poor. He hath sent me to heal the brokenhearted.
Now let me say this. Do you know it takes God to heal a broken heart? It takes God to heal a broken heart. It takes the power of God. Does everybody receive that?
Yes.
Do you know why it takes the power of God? Because a broken-hearted person is under demonic oppression. That's a demonic force. That's the reason why it takes the power of God to heal the brokenhearted. Does everybody understand that? So you ask yourself this question: how do people try to heal themselves? Food, shopping. vacation, sex.
TV, games.
In other words, a lot of fleshly stuff. Anything fleshly you can think of. People try to heal themselves. But according to what we just read, it takes the power, the Spirit of the Lord is upon me. It takes the Spirit of God to heal the brokenhearted. Now, what kind of shape is a person that's out in the world and ain't got God nowhere around them? That's rejected God. How is your heart going to ever be healed? How is your hurt going to ever be healed when you reject God? Does everybody understand that? Go ahead and keep reading.
He has sent me to heal the brokenhearted, to preach deliverance to the captives,
Mm-hmm.
and recovering of sight to the blind,
Uh-huh.
to set at liberty them that are bruised.
That are what?
Bruised.
Everybody see that? And does everybody know what a bruise is? That's not a cut on the outside. It's a cut on the inside. So it's not something you can put a Band-Aid on. Somebody got to go in there and heal that. In other words, it's not something on the surface. We can all smile. We can all go on vacation and pretend to be happy. But we can be bruised too. Does everybody understand that? How many of you seen X-Men? One of my favorite characters on X-Men is Wolverine. What is his power? What does he do? He's able to heal. Do you know God have made you all Wolverines? Do you know that's not a superpower? How many of you ever had a cut when you were 6 years old? How many of you still got the cut? You can cut your finger. The Lord in his mercy and grace developed when that blood come out, when it hit oxygen, it's going to clot up. That's your Band-Aid. Two or 3 days later, you won't even see a cut. That's God's doing. Does everybody understand that? We all do know that's God's doing, right?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure. So if it takes God himself to heal a natural wound, how much more so does it take for him to go inside and heal a cut in your heart that you don't see? Does everybody understand that? Yeah. What did we just read in the book of Proverbs? The man that trusted in his own heart is what? A man that thinks he can heal himself is a what? You better know he is. Now, what does God have to do with putting a name, giving her the name? Do you know for you to be healed of God? Now, that's the reason why a lot of people don't go to God, to be healed of their bruises and to be healed of their broken heart. Because you know what God is going to require? When you come stand before him and say, well, God, okay, Lord, I acknowledge that this person hurt me. They cheated on me. They gave me a disease. They did all kind of stuff to me. You know what God's going to ask you? What did you do? I can't heal you if you don't tell me the part you played in it.
Mm-hmm. Amen. That's right.
What did you do? Lord, I gave my body to him because I thought he was telling me he wanted to marry me. So when did your parents approve of that? Does everybody understand that? Mm-hmm. Did your daddy say it was okay to date him? Had your daddy walked you down the aisle yet? So you need to acknowledge your part in it. That's the only way I can heal you. Because if you don't acknowledge your part, you're going to turn away and walk away from me, and you're going to go out and do the same thing over again. You need to know what actions led up to you getting hurt. That's the reason why people don't go to God, for God to heal them. Because they too busy playing the victim of what somebody done to them. Does everybody understand that? Rarely in my day were parents, I don't remember parents letting their children lay up in their homes. That just wasn't a thing. In fact, in my day, big brothers were nailing their sisters' windows shut. In my day. Does everybody understand that? And now what the women doing, breaking their ankles, jumping out the second floor window. They ain't bringing up that hurt. I'm fine. Does everybody understand that? Do you know, let me share something with you all. Do you know how hard you had to work to get hurt? You ran for that hurt. Does everybody understand that? You had to work hard to get hurt. The whole time the Lord, look, you on the second floor, at least have enough sense not to, no, we got towels, I can climb down. Does everybody understand that? You had to lie, you had to cheat, you had to steal to get hurt. You had to get sneaky to get hurt. You had to take on all kind of stuff. Does everybody understand that? Yeah. When you read the book of Romans, the first chapter in its content, where the Lord is saying that basically it's going to be hard. Basically what he's saying is it's hard for people to go to hell because even the heavens declare that God exists. It's hard for a person not to get saved because it's too many factors that God have set in place to make people go to him. So when people go to hell, they have to willfully and work hard at and reject him on purpose. Does everybody understand that? People aren't just born, I just didn't know God. Nobody's going to be able to stand before God and say, I didn't know him. Nobody's going to be able to stand before God on Judgment Day and say, well, I didn't know you existed. I didn't know. You have to flat out reject God to go to hell. And that's a hard one to do. And I'm saying that to say this. You have to reject counsel and what was on the inside of you to begin with to get hurt. Everything, all the rules your parents had set in place was designed to keep you from being hurt. Mm-hmm. Even your common sense. It's something on the inside of you that knew that guy ain't no good for me. But you had to override that. Does everybody understand that? Yeah, you had to override and listen, so you don't get to play the victim with God. God is good enough to heal you when you come to him, but you better be at least have enough sense to admit what you did in it. Does everybody understand that? Mm-hmm. You got hurt because you set yourself up for it. Does everybody understand that? Now, don't you come to God with nothing less than that. You got hurt because you set yourself up for it. You wasn't this innocent. I was just innocent. That same female that say they're innocent, they were lying to their parents about where they were going. He knew I was clean and pure. No, he didn't. Not when you just told him, I had to lie to get here. I had to carjack somebody to get across town. You was doing all kind of hooking and crooking. But when I was all innocent, you took my innocence. You tell that lie to the devil. But I thank God that he was anointed to heal the brokenhearted.
Thank you, Lord.
And my prayer is that we'll take advantage of that. You heard me say it before, God is in the details. God can't heal what you're not willing to be detailed about. Does everybody understand that? When you just want to skip over life, I had a few bad relationships, and that ain't going to cut it at all. Does everybody understand that? Just as quick as you saying that, how long was you in a relationship? Does everybody understand? It didn't pass by that quick. You was doing some stuff in there. You see that? So my prayer is that we'll hear what the Lord is saying today. That you'll allow the Lord to heal you, and you be honest about your part and the part that you played in you being hurt. Does everybody understand that? How many of you want to pay that? You know that Jesus Christ did that. I don't think anybody else should have to do that. How many of you want to pay for what somebody else done done? God didn't call you to do that. He called you to suffer. But how many of you want to pay for what somebody else done done? Does everybody understand that? My prayers is that our intentions, our hearts, will start lining up with what we are communicating. That we'll be the same individual inside and out. That our heart our actions will display what's really on the inside, what's really in our hearts. Does everybody understand that? Because to me, it don't make sense to love somebody and run them away at the same time. That'll never make sense to me. And my prayer is that we'll allow the Lord to heal us the way we need to be healed. All right?